Okay. Not sure if I'm up and running or not, but we will find out in a few minutes. Basically, I put up a little vote to see what people would want to see. I don't know who's here yet, but we are going to show you what the plans were. Let's see. This is my sketchbook of different ideas that I've had. Some of them are not original. Some of them have been inspired by other things. But I was going to do the long bat, or I was going to do this little tentacle face dude. And I got votes that suggested tied. Hey, Cat B. I'm always wondering if you're going to make it or not. I hope your son's doing well. I know you got a lot going on, so if you can't stick around, I do understand completely. Let's keep the slug one. This guy right here. Well, this is the one that was the final vote, so I'm glad you like that. Thank you so much. Big fan of Ed's World. I posted something about it today. There was a third one, but this one and this one are the only two that got votes. So this is what I'm going to be working on today. I'm trying to come up with a plan for how to shape it. And I think that I'm going to do my very best to make it simple for a lot of good reasons. Looks like if I do the top half, I can do the ears. And then let's say I can do a rounded back of the head. And then that should give me a good top of the ear. And then I may have to do a separate piece underneath here. So we're going to have another wedge right here. This is going to be something I'm going to be doing completely online. He's doing okay. Slug is good. I'm really glad to hear it. Let's see if I'm trying to kind of build this as we go. We're going to do some very simple sketches. What I may wind up doing is a smaller version of it, maybe just a few inches worth. And then from there, I should be able to tell what does or doesn't work. And should allow me to kind of adjust it further. There's a couple things that kind of work out a little bit weird. Like I'm trying to decide, I think what I'm going to do is, I'm not even sure how much of this you guys can see. I feel like brown and red and light brown would suit. You know what? I think that sounds good. I might start with the prototype color, which is just this simple cotton fabric right here. And then what I'll do from there is I will keep that. What'd you say? You said like brown and red and light brown. So I've got brown and red. And then I've got a cream color. Do you think that would work, big fan? Or should maybe a green be mixed in there with that? So maybe like red coming out of the mouth, greens and browns. Or do you want browns and tan? Yeah, like the forest and mushrooms. Let's see. Yeah, okay, gotcha. So cream. And then what we'll do is after we kind of build it, we can see what will look best in the different spots. And I think I'm going to do a belly piece separate. So what I'm doing here is I'm essentially just, there we go. I'm essentially just kind of mapping out where I think the pieces should be. I think the mouth should be just a rounded piece. And I will sew a little seam around it. So basically fold this under, right, on this side, all the way around and then sew it together. And when I sew that around, it should give it a lip. And I would do like a flat circle right here so I can attach all the tentacles to it. So I tuck that circle in underneath this lip. And I can do that all the way around. I think I will bring the belly all the way down. And we will round that out as well. That should give us a greater portion of what we're looking for. We'll do this rounding to the belly. And I'll probably have to like change the shape of this just a little bit as I go. And I think the last thing, I've got this drawn with a back. What do you guys think? Should I have a flat, solid color back? Or should I do it the same as the sides? Because what I could do is I can curve it around, make it really wide, and then put little wedges in here so that it gives me a rounded butt. Or I can curve it around and then add another rounded piece to the back. Now, the only reason that would be relevant is if we wanted to put the back as a different color. Red with spots like a red cap mushroom. Yeah, that'd be kind of cute. Kind of make this a little bit more mushroom-y, kind of a fungus slug. Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to decide. I think what we should do is probably just go ahead and give the back the same color. So what I'll do is I'll plan for a wedge shape here to give it the shape in the butt. This will probably have to round out a little bit weirdly. This will have to come all the way up to a point in order to get that shape to look right. And then that's going to come up a little bit sharper. So what will happen is I'll have the neck. I will probably run this part back a little bit. So the head will actually be curved downwards. So I'll have the top of the ears. I'll have the bottom of the ears. Yeah, that should be just kind of roughly what we're looking for. There's a whole lot of extra lines here. But that should give us a lot of the shape that we want. That'll put a wedge down the back of the neck, so that'll make it wider at the top, narrow in the back, and then we'll plan it this way, and then if it doesn't work, we'll make another version of it. Yes, I was thinking, let's see, the spots and the mushrooms. Okay, excellent. So we'll do that, a lot of that. So we'll do some red and browns, maybe put the red on the top for the cap, and then we'll decide on the tentacles afterwards, and then like some cream for the body. So it'll almost look like a mushroom, and then we'll do brown for the belly and maybe the legs. So that looks like the leg, obviously not the roots, but like the ground itself. And I think that looks really cute, that concept right there. And then what we'll do is we'll make this about the same size as this page. From here, I should be able to determine what does or doesn't work. Sorry, I've got like several different projects all on the table all at once, doing my very best to continue trucking forward with everything properly. Got to get my grid paper. What's up?
Did we get, I'm so sorry, I know you're busy. Did we get those cars in the mail, little trucks?
I haven't seen any. Okay, so let's see. If we're going to do this about the size of this page, there we go. Let's go ahead and start with, let's see, I'm going to start with the body. I think that will give us a good range of where to go. I'm trying to make sure I've got my entire piece mapped out here. And then the good news is when we see it all in one color, we can actually start kind of plotting it out and we'll know it will fit. So I want to start off with my circle here. I'm going to try and give it that extra little bit of lip. So I will need that to come out just a little bit. This will be the actual area where the mouth is. And what will happen is I'm going to fold this in so that I can create that lip when I sew it together. There's a whole lot of ifs and maybes that are going to come out of this. So that should give me a good enough shape right here. And then what will happen is the belly should make up for that as well. Then bring this around. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to build a brand new plush. There's certain things that you can rely on with what the material will do, but there are also a whole heck of a lot of weird things that when you start putting the fluff inside, when you start sewing it together, it just starts kinking up, binding up, changing its shape a whole lot. And there's nothing you could really do to guess a lot of that. It just kind of starts happening. So the best you can do is pretty much just start like what I'm doing and just kind of work your way around. So let's see, I'm going to do pretty high up here. I think the way that I've got this drawn up, it looks like let's get rid of this. Should have it come down. There will be a seam here, but it'll fold this way. I think right about there. So there is a lot of guesswork that happens, and that's part of the reason why I want to do it smaller. A lot of times I will make them full size whenever I do a brand new prototype like this, and it's just such a long process that sometimes it just feels aggravating in its own ways. And we'll do the wedge here. Now what will happen is when I sew this wedge up, that's going to bring this part down a little bit, and it will bring this part up a little bit. So I want to make sure that I've got my big curve, because I like that really rounded out body right here. The downside is I may have to put several wedges into it, which of course is not really a bad thing, except for the fact that I can't plan for that until I've done quite a few different attempts. All right. Now with this, I should be able to sew across the top and the wedge. I'll leave a little gap right here for where I'm going to put it together. And then I can actually see how these two pieces will go together and how much space I have for where I need my belly. My belly, I intend to be just a little bit of a wedge here and go all the way around to probably right about here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down to a point. So it's going to be just a straight strip. It looks curved at this angle, but it'll go straight down and just be sewn along the same shape. That should give me enough for me to be able to gauge what it will or won't do. Now, another thing that I do whenever I am sewing or cutting up these wedges, I will show you in just a moment. I actually don't cut the wedge out. Now, I will do it afterwards, but when I'm doing this first part of it, what I want to do is have my circle line up, my shape, the curve, whatever you want to call it. In this case, I guess technically the butt. I want that to line up first. I'll show you just a second here, and I'll explain why. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want these two to be my points. I will just fold those over to meet each other. Do my best to fold them over to meet each other. Now what will happen is you can see that those two lines match up a little bit. I can see that I need to make just a little bit of an extra fold. There we go. And now, to make those circles, those edges line up a lot better, I now have a continuous round. Now I can actually cut the wedge, and the two ends should join up. Now I'm going to cut this a little bit wider. So you can see roughly what I did here. I guess you can see it better on this side. And to test that, I have learned that I can literally just pin these together. Like that. And you can see it rounds out across the back of it. And it gives us roughly the shape we're looking for. I see that I missed some messages here. I'm so sorry. Waiting for a call. What making? Oh, I'll show you. This little dude right here. So that's the thing. I have learned that I can do these completely like spur of the moment kind of as I go plushes. I do that on Mondays when I do my Pokemon Big Fan. And I basically have a rough pattern. And the reason I do a rough pattern is because that way I can see what I want to do if I want to repeat it. And then what will happen is I can make changes on it and make it so much easier. So with this, since what I'm wanting to do is this exact thing, I like to do the pattern because what will happen is after I'm done with this, when I actually make the whole thing, put it together, I'm like, oh, that curve is too short. I need to bring it up more. The butt doesn't go around enough. I can actually take my pattern and adjust that in each little spot. And it makes it so much easier to fix what I do. And then, of course, once I've done it, I can make so many more of them. So I get both sides of that. Making them without patterns is a lot of fun. But when I have this idea in my head, there's that kind of, I don't know if it's ADHD or if it's just stubbornness, but I'm like, no, that's what I want it to look like. I need to work hard to make it look like that. So I commend you for that, definitely for making it that way, because it is a lot of fun. There's a whole lot of joy in just kind of making something. I actually do this thing where I take a bunch of scraps, pieces like this in different colors, and I sew them all together randomly to make plushes. And I'll probably do that after I finish this project. After I finish this guy, what I'll do is one of my reanimates. And I'll just spend an entire day just sewing together a whole bunch of pieces to make some random piece. Yeah, I guess that's true too. I do. When I like the design, I want it to look exactly like I'm aiming for. So that is like very valid. That is very true on that. All right, so now you can see that by combining those steps where I kind of roll it, then cut it afterwards, I can then pin it so I can see what will happen. And the reason you pin it is because what's going to happen is when you sew it, you're going to have that loss anyways. So I'm going to lose about 1/4 of an inch on the edge. So when I clip it like this, that represents about how much I'd lose. When I fold it open, yes, the paper doesn't move like the fabric does, but you can really easily see, oh, that rounds out pretty nicely. And I can always cut just a little bit more if I needed to. So like I could literally just take the pencil and draw a line and then say, okay, that's where I need to cut. So I know what it looks like. I sometimes use fabric sheets from the store. Costs less for me. You know what I'm using? I'm using a whole freaking, this is a bed sheet, a bedspread that I had years ago. And it was tore. So I was like, you know what? Perfect. I think Cat B has used curtains for projects. So yeah, the cheaper I can make it, the more fun I'm going to have because I don't have to stress about wasting material. Okay, so now we have got, step one is, I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. I think what I'm going to wind up doing, and I'm going to show you how I would do this as well. I'm going to go ahead and take this piece of paper and I'm going to run that right along the edge of what I'm working with. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but by doing this, I can see roughly how long I need it to be. And I want it to go to about here, so I'm going to use pretty much this entire piece. I'm going to use this as my reference. I could always sew it down just a little bit more. But I think what's going to happen is because I want it to be a little bit wider at the top and then get thinner. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to have it go like an hourglass shape or if I'm just going to make it thin or if I'm just going to make it straight. What I'm going to start off with, might as well, is going to go ahead and do a straight piece. I will have the rounded top. Let me go ahead and fold that in half so I can get like a little bit more of an even round. It's not much of a difference, but it's enough for me to kind of look at. I will fold this down when I sew it so that I create that lip again. And I will have these all joined together at about the mouth right here. So it should be roughly like that. And it'll go around the belly. And of course I can adjust accordingly. It was, I made a dog bed. My mother-in-law didn't want to buy. That's fantastic though. I mean, use the fabric you've got, and curtains are pretty sturdy fabric, so that's pretty great. Okay, now let's see what we can do. I'm going to get some of this stuff out of my way. I believe I actually have my white pencil over here this time. I do, so I can use this. Get some of my stuff out of my way. I considered briefly if I wanted to make my frog today. So I made this pattern for a frog. And I sewed it a little bit awkward. Like what I need to do is have the leg attached here. So I need to sew this end off and leave this open. But I'm thinking about doing this frog very soon anyways. But I'm also trying to catch up on orders while making a whole bunch of stuff for an upcoming show. So trying to decide what the best use of my time is really kind of getting kind of hard. I know that art projects take some time, but sometimes it feels like everything's taking so much longer than it needs to. All right, I'm just trying to find the direction of my fabric. It's not super important when it comes to the prototypes, but sometimes I just like to make sure that I'm doing something right. So we go through here. Now, I have not been practiced at finding the bias, the direction that you can pull the material to get it to stretch more. And I have a feeling that if I got better at that, there's a few things that I would find are easier to handle. But I'm also super not concerned with it right now. It feels like one of those things where one day it might be relevant. It might be more relevant for clothing. But if you guys have any tips on figuring that out or what uses I would have for that, I am definitely open to hearing that. With plushes, I know there's a whole lot of change of shape because you're filling it. But that's not always something that seems to be relevant enough for what I'm working with. What happened to your pen? No, it's right here. Not only do I still have my pen, but I actually have, I just went and bought some more pens. But I'm working on this, and look at that. For this material, I really can't use this. Even the darker stuff, it just doesn't come off very well. But yeah, I have not abandoned my pen. My pen is right chaw. Right chaw. All right. I've got my mark here, so that's going to be my lip. Flip this over so I can get the sides to face each other accordingly. Just have to make sure I use as much of this properly as I can. I like to be as cautious, efficient as I possibly can with my space, with my material. And that falls into the category of, it's not like I have a whole lot of money to be doing with this stuff, so I got to be as careful as I can. So being efficient is always helpful. And using this pencil on this black material, since it is just cotton, is definitely easier than using the pen. And what they're talking about is usually I just mark everything with my pen because I can't see it on the minky material. Catby thinks I've betrayed my pen. My pen knows how important he is. Now, if we're lucky, what will wind up happening is this will wind up being pretty darn close to, if not accurate to what we want for that butt to be. The truth is that's the part that I'm expecting to have the most trouble with to start with. And depending on how close I get, I won't have to do too many prototypes. Depending on the circumstances and how these things work out, sometimes one prototype is enough, and I just do the adjustments accordingly. How do you plan on making the mouth? All right, so let me show you. My plan is, for now, because I also have this intention of trying to make this so I can use as much machine as possible. I'm going to have this circle, and I'm going to sew that into the lip so that the lip actually overshadows it. So the lip will go over just a little bit all the way around. Okay. Then I will make the tentacles and hand stitch them on. So what will happen is I will have individual tentacles that I will have to maneuver around each other to get to the next one. I think that that's my current plan. Now there's a possibility I'll come up with another idea. I could also like bundle them all together and then sew them together and then make one piece, but I'm not really sure how that would work out. So it's kind of a case of this is a brand new concept. I've done tentacles before, but not like that. Yeah, like I did the Cthulhu. It was a brand new when I started watching you. I've seen so many projects using that pen. That's kind of funny. I hadn't even thought about how much you've seen done with that pen. I have had it for quite some time. I just don't know how long I had it before I started doing the lives. Because yes, when I did the mice, that's what I used. When I did everything, every one of my Pokemon that I've done, sorry, I'm not going to be saying that word. Every one of my goofy monster plushes that I've made has been done that same way. And now I'm not even sure I can find anything that would have worked better. People have talked about using water-soluble pens or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I could. But by this point in time, it really feels like that's just kind of my way. And then, as part of my plan, I think that I'm also going to do the lip all at one time. I think I was considering the idea of sewing this over before I attached everything. But if I attach everything, that should just leave a full-on lip all the way around it. And then I could fold that over at one time and do that separately. Now, I have done when I made my Kraken, which I've only been able to post like 1 or 2 pictures of, what I did was I actually made a ring around it, around the mouth. That way I can stuff the ring and it gave it a big, solid, rounded kind of donut shape. But with this one, I really don't want it to be filled. I just want it to be a light amount of material that's taking the shape of the lip. So I think that that'll make a bit of a difference. And then I will cut one more piece out of this using my estimated length. Sometimes there's nothing I can do to be careful about how much material I use. Since I'm only making prototypes with this, I do the occasional thing, like I did the hat for a mouse at some point using the blacks, and make the tentacles like you're making legs, but really tiny. You're talking about like thin? Yes. If you're talking about making, I think what's going to wind up happening is it's going to be several thin, very simple tentacles. And I'll have to give them all the shape in the cutting because they're not going to curl on their own. So if that's what you're referring to, yes, my intention is to make enough to really crowd it in there because I think it'll look really cute and it'll look kind of creepy if it has a lot of little tentacles in that one space compared to like being spaced out. I think if they're all crammed together next to each other, following the same shape, it'll look more like a mouth than it will just a group of tentacles. Because if I was going group of tentacles, I also have this design. And this design was meant to be, so I make this little guy, walks around, got a mouthful of teeth. And then I've got this, an octopus, but basically the octopus is the inside. So you can right side it out. So you pull through the mouth and it becomes this. And that mouth is on the bottom. But then you could leave tentacles sticking out of the mouth. So if I did, that's what I'm trying to avoid, is something like this. And you can see here, this is where that I was talking about with that donut shape for the mouth. So I've got some references that I've used before for that. But this is going to be a brand new concept, I think. Well, for me. Additionally, when I make this part, I'm going to have to cut it down. I have to actually cut a wedge at the bottom of it. I forgot to do that on my pattern part, but that's okay. It's an easy enough fix. And the reason is because I don't want a rounded belly. I actually just want it going back down to that shape. So let's see. I've got my rounded edge here, which isn't really very rounded at all. And I think I'm going to fold this in half, and then right about there, I will just cut a wedge out. I need to switch directions on that. And the intention is to bring it to a point. But it doesn't have to be like a super sharp point because I've still got to sew it in there. Taper it off just a little bit at a time. Now my hope is that this will come down the neck and it'll give me just enough space so that the body doesn't cup in. It'll actually have a little bit of room to kind of take more of a rounded shape. The jumping mouse, yes, it was. Like I've still got all of those over here. That was like 3 or 4 at a time. The frog, I think this is number 6, maybe 5 of the frog. I mean, you can see the differences from here. Here, let me get this material out of the way. From here to here. And that's just such a subtle difference. And all I had to do is change the pattern just a little bit back and forth. So yeah, that's kind of how that happens. I just kind of go from one to the other. And which might be what happens with this guy. And if that's the case, it's going to take quite some time because I'm only going to be working on it live. I might wind up doing like the final version separate, but I intend to do all of it live so you guys can see the full process. Now, in case anybody's curious, I have been posting my lives on YouTube. So I do go by the same name on YouTube, The Versatile Deviant. Right now, it is all the plush stuff that I've made. And in time, I'm going to start adding leather to my lives because I do leather work as well. And I think it'll make it for a lot of fun to do things like that. Now, when I talked about this earlier, I talked about sewing the top of the head. That is not right. I just remembered I got this entire top part. It's going to fold down the back as well. So I'm not going to sew the back of the neck. All I'm going to do is sew this wedge and then right around here. It's not going to be enough to see very much, but I can then start planning the top part with the ears. and see where that goes afterwards. A lot of times when I'm making a new project, I will make all kinds of silly mistakes because I haven't made one. So I'm doing my best to slow down just enough. Now, if you are curious, if you ever want to see something done in particular, I'm doing this today because I wanted to make sure I do some unique stuff. Fan stuff is great. I like working on fan art. But just recently, I started seeing a lot of creators getting all their stuff taken down because the Niantic company is hiring somebody that is going through and saying, hey, that is our property, that is our intellectual property, stop or we will press charges, or whatever the case that they're doing, cease and desist. And I'm not going to put myself in a situation where all I do is fan stuff. Because of that, I don't want to have to worry about one day getting a letter like that. Okay, now I do have to keep you in mind, let you know, whenever you're sewing these wedges, the sewn part needs to go on the inside. So what that means is you actually have to do the other one the other direction. Now, because I flipped this and I can see where I put the white lines on here, I don't have to worry as much about it. I can actually just do the white lines on this one as well. See, I can see just enough white line to be able to make sure that I got it right. But in the past, I have cut through these really quickly and forgotten and wound up doing two on the same side. It becomes a problem depending on what you're doing, but at the same time, if you're aware of it, it's an easy enough process to keep from having happen. Next thing I want to point out to you, I say this quite often in my lives, and the point of this is teaching people how to do things. So that wedge, it stops right here. If I were to just sew from that to that end to that point where it stops, it's going to be a rough corner. It's not going to be rounded out. So you can see that I've got that thread going all the way around and just really close to the edge before I bring it off. And the reason for that is it actually rounds that part out. So still a little bit hard to see. Actually, you can see, you're fine. You're not doing anything wrong, buddy. You can actually see that it takes that rounded edge. Yes, sir? I love you too, buddy. Now, I can bring this out a little bit more if I really want to change that shape some more. Yes, sir? I'm your friend. I'm really glad to hear that, buddy. All right, love you. So I'm actually going to sew just a little bit more. I feel like I brought it off a little bit too sharp. So just a little bit more rounding. I can't tell you how far it's going to take. I think that's going to be a case of you looking at it and you deciding, okay, that looks rounded enough for me. Sometimes you may have to sew it again afterwards. There's a lot of little things like that that'll happen. Yeah, you're awing my son, right? He's got a massive collection of Goofymon right now because that's where they go immediately. Yeah. You love me and your friend? And you can see right here, that's where it rounds out. And it makes it a lot smoother of a rounded point. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is if you are trying to get a rounded area, you may have to put several tiny wedges. What this is going to try and do is it's going to try and stay flat. So when I add that piece underneath, that joining piece in the middle, that should allow it more room to change its shape. But if you have a situation where, let's say, you just want a whole rounded area, you can put a whole bunch of little wedges or big wedges, depending on what you're trying to do. I have also found that if I do that just right, I can make this area smaller because with every inch that you cut out, so let's say I cut just a tiny wedge right here, that's going to make that piece just a little bit smaller. And if I do it just right, it winds up making a butt crack. So if you want to give your plushes some booty, you can do that by shortening your rounded areas, by making less space out here. And what will happen is it'll start to become more of a ledge, a lip. Let's see, a crest. I'm not sure what the right word for that would be, but basically it brings it back. And then when you sew them together, it kind of in and in. So you wind up getting like that shape where you sew them together because you cut all those wedges. So that's something to keep in mind. And one day I will make something that's specifically designed to have a booty, and then I will make it and then show you what I'm talking about. But for the time being, just kind of talking it out maybe is enough for you to say, oh, I can try that later, some other time. Oh, that's giving me an idea. Maybe if I do my others, because one of the other projects I planned on, so I put up for vote this guy, my long bat, where is he? This guy. And then I also put these up. And maybe what I'll do is I'll eventually make these, and I'll give some of them booties. And that'll be a fun little project to kind of build from. All right, so now I have to make sure I keep in mind what I don't want sewn and what I do want sewn. I think the best plan for me will be to sew the inside of the neck and the belly first. All right, these white lines are going to go on the outside. You can see that seam is on the outside. Thank you so much. I'm going to be upfront about this. Not every one of those designs is solely mine. I see things sometimes and it inspires me to come up with an idea, but also I will draw out what I have seen. So I will admit that I try to do another search for anything that I've drawn up before I start making it. I do like an image search just to make sure that I'm not directly copying somebody else's work. That doesn't mean that I'm not failing or that it didn't show up, but I do my very best to be as honest of an artist as I possibly can. The booty, yes. I would put a booty on this one, and maybe once we figure it out, it'll be worth putting a booty on him. But I also don't know if I want to be known as the booty guy. Well, that being said, I can't really argue against something like that. But as far as my plushes go, maybe I don't want to be known as the booty guy. All right, so I think what I'm going to have to do actually is pin this direction out. This is something that I could potentially use the basting method to pin it in place. When you baste something, see how I'm pinning really close so I can get the rounded edge? If you are basting it, you take a needle with some thread and you just run it straight across. No detailed stitches. It's just a straight stitch, and that holds it in place so you don't need the needles. You, the mouse guy, or Goofy Mon, I'm okay with that. What I figure is when I originally started building this page on TikTok, my plan was to do a little bit of everything, just kind of do my paintings, my drawings, my plushes, my leather work. And if you look at my early stuff, like some of the early posts that I did, you'll see a lot of that. But then the mouse thing kicked off so much that I was like, look, I got to roll with that. That's the best option that I have to market myself. So I'm slowly starting to get to the point where I'm actually doing a little bit more and a little bit more at a time. I want to start doing some paintings and some other stuff very soon. I love to do oil paintings. I do figurative oil paintings that are somewhere between surreal and scary, depending on the circumstance. And I have all these ideas that I just need to find a model that's local that will work with me for. I go on Pinterest and look for mythical creatures and make my own designs, but more different. Yes, that's fantastic. First off, if you find some stuff on Pinterest that is like inspiring, but you can do something else with, that's fun. I've done that a couple times with different things. I usually don't go searching for it, but what happens is I find it because that's my interest. So that's where my algorithms go. And from there, I just kind of like, okay, I like this. I'm going to run with it. In fact, I'll show you something on here. Wow, that was a weird whistling S. Let's see. These are my elemental dots, literally just balls, and I was going to put elements on them, kind of picturing them as familiars for adventures. Of course, moths. Let's see. Oh, this literally is the germ from Amazing World of Gumball. Like literally, I know that's what it was from. And what I plan to do is figure out my own way to do that, of course. Hey there, freaky kid. Let's see. I know I've got a couple on here that are designs from stuff. Let's see. Something simple that I'm sure one or two of these is taken directly from somebody else's art or a video game. And my intention is to find out what they came from first. Here my wallet is, would love an oil painting. Well, I can show you one of my oil paintings now if you are interested. I've got a few things that I've done, but they are in the garage right now. And if you look on my page towards the bottom, I actually do have an oil painting that I put up. And it's probably the one I would show because it's I like that one The bat wings one. So that's a fun thing. I love the idea of combining all this different stuff. And I have this image in my head of making plushes and then using them for oil paintings. Maybe they're the monsters hunting somebody. Maybe they're the subject of the painting. Maybe they're just a friend of the person in the painting. There's a lot of things like that I could do. Okay, now here's another thing that I will explain to you. When I do the prototypes, sometimes I will not even do a backstitch. The reason is because I want to be able to pull it out real easy if it turns out that I just need a slight adjustment. Because then what I can do is I can literally undo it, cut this, and then start again or do it again instead of having to start all the way over. I will also do a wider stitch. So instead of doing, for example, I tend to be right above the 2, I will put it right above the 3. And a wider stitch allows me to be able to see it. So if I need to undo it, I can undo it a lot easier with my seam ripper. All these little things are to help me kind of reduce the amount of extra work I do when I fail, because I know I'm going to fail. Don't forget pins, magic pins. Yes, I actually do. I started doing pins with the packs that I opened with my son. And he has a lot of fun. I put them up on my shoulders, and then he helps me use the machine. And I'm going to be doing like digital art for those as well. So I'll print out stuff and maybe make pins for my prints and make my own custom cards. Yeah, I love the idea of doing so many different things, but I also have to keep in mind that I have to pay attention to how I'm doing them. I've got new ways of organizing things. For example, I've got a box for all my unfinished mice, so I can just pull them out when I get the right thread color and just start sewing, and then I can put a new one in there. I've got all these little ways of keeping myself in track. I'm getting better at it because I used to be, I want to say flaky is a good word for it. And I don't want to be that. I want this to be a business. I want this to be something that people can rely on me for. And I feel like I've done really well with that so far. I mean, don't get another magic pin, pull them off. Yes. Wait. What are you talking? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by magic pin. I tried mermaid deer, but it was scrapped. So kind of like a hippogriff, but as a deer instead of a horse. Yeah, I'll take parts of fan arts and then put them together, make one plush. Yes, the same thing. Yeah, a deer hippogriff, that's a pretty cool idea. I've actually got a hippogriff bag that I started, a leather bag, and never got to finish. Maybe depending on what goes on here today, I might show you guys that. But let's see, I'm going to try and line this up. Now, the good news is these two pieces should be close enough to the same where I don't have to worry about trying to get it exact. I can get it close enough and be fine. See that edge lined up there? I'll do the same thing here. And then I will just run my pins the exact same way, but I'll keep it on this side up. I don't know how most people do their sewing. I put my needle on the right-hand side, and that way I can just run everything that way. The downside is I'm not used to holding my hands for a left-sided needle, and that has only caused a problem on the occasion. Like, for example, when I do snakes, whenever I do long stretches of sewing, like for something like this, I have to do them both from the same direction at the same side on top, because what will happen is sometimes the boot will catch or the feed dogs will catch weird, and it'll kind of stretch out one material or the other. So if I do them both the same direction, they're at least going to stretch out evenly, and that'll keep the piece a little bit more balanced. So that's something that I don't know if that's the people normally change, if they do differently, but that's kind of my way. So if you're looking at something I'm doing, like, why is he doing it this way? Well, that's why. I always do it so I can keep my sewing on the right-hand side. And that's just a convenience and practice type thing. I only hand sew. I can't afford a sewing machine, and I don't know how to use it. I taught myself. Here's my suggestion. Keep an eye on garage sales, antique shows. You probably can't go to like Salvation Army anymore. They probably want to charge you new prices for it. But no, I get that. This was a sewing machine that my wife had. We were still just living together at the time. But yeah, I've not gotten a new one, and this one is probably like 20 years old now. But no, I get that. I can't spend the money. When I do the hand sewing, I used to do a lot of hand sewing. So I get how easy it is can do hand sewing with the exception of the time. I may have to send you a message and ask you how you do your hand sewing. Your bent pin, I know what you're talking about. You're making fun of me for my super magic pen. I got you. I thought you were talking magic like Magic the Gathering compared to Pokemon. Yes. So now you're giving me a hard time about this. And yes, I'm probably going to wind up getting some more. I will pull them out, but I also got that wide stitch, so hopefully I don't have to. Thanks a lot for making fun of me and reminding me of my failures. I definitely appreciate that. What Cat B's talking about is one day during live, I did exactly what I'm doing here, where I'm leaving the pins in. And I was talking about how it's relatively safe, and I've had very few circumstances where it's been a problem. And as I'm saying that, this needle hits one of my pins, causes this damage to the pin, and breaks my needle all at one time. Like all live, all immediately after I said, it's not a problem, don't worry about it. Yeah, now I keep it because of that. It's somewhere between my lucky pin and what I think I'm going to put on as like a logo for my stitch projects. I mean, it does have the V on there. So I could use it as the versatile deviant pin. I think it is a funny idea. And then one day when we have jackets for the Versatile Deviant Club, it'll have that pin on there. Oops, there we go. All right, again, not doing a back stitch, and that's just so I can undo it easily if I need to. All right, get all my pins out of the way here, and let's see how this took shape. I think I will have to sew the back of the butt up. I'm pretty sure that what's going to happen is I'm going to have the neck reach down to about here, but I may bring it all the way to the curve. So I should be able to just sew the butt like right around here. Let's see what kind of shape we do have currently. I'm going to go ahead. Let's see. I think in order to see what this is doing, the only chance I have is to actually go ahead and sew up to the butt. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Now I've already sewn. You can see I brought that point here. So all I have to do is literally start right there. These two pieces don't line up perfectly, but that's okay. That's one of those things that'll change depending on the material. This is a little bit more stretchy than my minky material. There's a lot of little things that are going to happen like that. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do a little bit of pin. No, actually I don't need to pin this. I'm just going to start right there where that thread ended. And then what we'll do is I'm going to sew around, and then I'm going to show you what we're aiming for. For anybody that's just now getting here. Now, another thing I want to point out is when you are sewing around a part like this, you want to do your best to keep that stitch in the actual shape you want. Whatever happens with the fabric, the closer you can get your stitching to the shape you want, the more likely it is that it will take that shape. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's say, for example, I had a wedge cut out right here by accident. I wouldn't want to sew and then bring that around. You can see right here, I sewed as a circle around it.
Animal water.
Animal water?
Uh-huh.
I don't know what you mean by animal water.
I got animal water in Mommy's room.
In Mommy's room you got animal water? Well, I don't have any water animals out here. I think they're all in the tub, in the bathroom.
Oh, it's not here.
They're not here? Okay.
I got it in bath.
Okay, well, see if you can find them, and if you need to dry them off, ask Mommy. Okay?
No.
What are you doing with my shirt? Get out of here, you little turd. Yeah, you found it in here?
In black room.
In the black room?
No, over here. Right room.
Oh, in the bathroom. In the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I want you to do me a favor.
Get the real.
Why don't you go take care of that? You do that separately.
I did it.
Well, okay. Well, I'm glad you did it. What I'm basically saying is I need a little bit of time, a little bit of space here. Okay, so can you give me just a little bit of space?
Ginger ale.
Yeah, you got ginger ale? I don't think you have ginger ale. I don't think you know what ginger ale is.
No,
All right, it looks like we're going to have a little bit more of a pointed butt than I intended, but that might be because I haven't sewn it all the way.
We got Kinder.
Yeah, Kinder egg. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I got.
Yeah. All right.
I got
Hey.
Goodrill.
I'm still not sure.
Goodrill.
Something whale. All right, buddy. I need you to do me a favor. Why don't you go ahead and go tell mommy? Maybe she can figure it out for you. Okay? No, you don't think so? Okay. Where did all the people come from? Are you talking about the in just noticing a change? Let's see. Yes, I love that idea, but no, not making fan. Just worried you took them out after. I'm scrolling back to see what I missed. Is your lucky pin? Okay, it is your lucky pin. I was worried you took them out. Well, now you're back to. Oh yes. Okay, yes. I'm going back and forth, Cat B. I know. Old habits die hard. Where all the people come from, I wasn't paying attention. You're talking about the people that are in here? Well, if there's anybody in here and you just got here, welcome. Hopefully that's what they're talking about. This is what we are making today. We're making the prototype for this. This is literally my first attempt to make this. So basically, I'm trying roughly some ideas based on what I'm seeing. And we've got parts of the body put together.
What's that?
Oh, killer whale.
In your room.
Yes, killer whale. That's not words you say very often. I get it, buddy. So basically, we're trying to get a rounded butt, which it looks like I may not have rounded enough. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this back around and sew it a little bit more. Let's see what will happen with that. What am I making? I think right now we're considering calling it like some sort of mushroom slug. So we're going to see what happens with that. Put that back. Oh, I see what you're doing. You're just trying to look. I got you.
What's this guy?
What is that guy?
This one.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to make right now. Okay, back up just a little bit. That's hopefully what we're making.
And this.
All right, let's see how that fixes it. I can't tell if I don't have a rounded butt because I haven't sewn far enough in, which, by the way, I wouldn't be doing, except for the fact that I'm trying to test that shape. And what I think I'm already going to have to do is probably widen that a little bit because I kind of want like a big butt. I want something that I'm going to have to stop and look at as it walks by. So curious, yes. And I'm totally okay. See, I do my very best to promote curiosity. I always got in trouble for being curious. People would ask me they would ask a question in English class, and I would give my opinion on things or kind of based on what I read, and then I would get backlash because they're like, no, this is what it's intended. I'm like, why? Can't you explain that to me? And I want him to understand that he can ask as many questions as he needs to. That being said, I also trying to get him to understand that I might need a little bit of space on the occasion when I'm working on something. So here's a couple thoughts. Let me go ahead and move this back just a little bit, kind of give us a little bit more room. Get my pins out of the way so I don't accidentally drop them on the floor. He's got a fort underneath my table, so I cannot risk dropping pins underneath the table. All right, so here's what we've got. It's a little bit of the shape that we want, that rounded shape, but there is also kind of a disconnect, and I don't know if it's because I need to round this out some more, and I think that might be it. I think what that means is I will have to bring this out a little bit. So I'll need to bring that out. And then the next thing is I'm going to have to balance the curve. Now the other option is I could still add that flat top to it. And I'm kind of starting to wonder if maybe that's just what I need. Because if I add that flat top, I could always make that another red and white mushroom. So it would be at the top here and the top here that would be red and white mushroom. And I'm starting to wonder if that would look really cute or not. Same, I'm still curious. Yeah, I love the idea of being curious. Yeah, so it kind of looks like I might need to adjust just a little bit. And what I will do is I'm going to bring this out so it rounds. Because I need this to go that a little bit more. Because remember I told you that this is going to pull up? You can see that it pulled up quite a bit when I put them together. So I can pull this one down some more for the pattern. I think that what happened here is okay. because I've got that little bit of a sharp chest, so it comes down. And I think that that's an okay shape. And you can see how having this here allowed it to take more of a shape and round out on the bottom kind of nicely. So that's good. I think that this will give me enough room for the lips. And what I will do next, instead of cutting and attaching the head to this, I will do that separately. So we're going to have this shape. It's going to have these 3 prongs, one for each ear and then down the back of the neck. And then I'm going to have to round this out. So here's an example of how I would kind of figure that out. I could easily just cut a circle out right here, and then I would use this to determine for my pattern. I think that that's going to have to be something I do, but I'm not sure about the shape for quite yet. So let's see if I can kind of create a little bit of a round. Now, I don't need to worry about it being too perfect there. So I bring this out. I don't need to worry about getting it across both pieces, just as long as I get the round area here so that I know what it'll do. Now, basically, I can change the shape of how I cut my pattern based on what this does. That doesn't always work perfectly, but it definitely helps to get me started. If you have the less things that you have to guess on for your first time, the faster you can kind of cut through things. So now I can literally just kind of lay this with the wedge and all right across the back here, and I can see roughly what I need to do with that. Okay, so the butt did not go out wide enough, so I want to bring this down and get all of this out of my way. And there we go. Now you'll see how I do my adjustments. Okay, I really think for now the head and mouth work pretty well. So all I'm going to do is trace those completely. Here, let me get this adjusted a little bit. Yeah, I am putting the circle. You're talking about the circle on the back? I am doing that. I cut it out for so I can lay the pattern down across it. Now, to make it easier on myself, I am literally just going to trace my exact current pattern. Then, since I know that I need to adjust a few different things here, I can see how that circle is going to be cut because that's the one that I cut out, kind of a wide oval. But instead of just starting there, I'm going to go ahead and bring this out like we talked about. So that should be right about here. I will bring this down a little bit. Maybe down and then out. I think what's going to happen is I need to bring this out a little bit more too. But I want to keep that as a smooth line. So this should make my butt quite a bit thicker, but do I feel like that's thick enough? I think we're going to find out. It may be, I'd rather it be a little bit too thick. But I have to also get the gradient for roughly where I want it to go. Okay, and then I will do my wedge in here. I'll do it a little bit lower as well. From what I could tell, that had a big effect on where it went. That should be a good wide amount. And then I've got this. If I had done it on the other side, it would have been a little bit easier. Where's my... Take this out. Now you can see what I'm talking about. I don't know if you can see it on your end because of the camera, but I can really see where the stitches are in this and makes it a lot easier. Not easy, just easier. Since it's the same color, it's still a little bit of a problem. But this should give me just enough. All I need to do is cut out enough to kind of get this part off so that I can then lay it across the pattern and see where I cut and how I cut it. Just a few stitches from about here to the end. And sometimes I can actually, yep, there we go. I can see the stitch well enough to just pop them out right here. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see what the light's doing. Yeah, that should be... brother, what's that? It's really hard to... It's black on black. I've got all this light. I got like a 3 light post, and then I've got a ring light that I use. So I've got a fair amount of light that's coming from a lot of different directions, and sometimes that camera just does not know how to handle it. And all I'm doing here is getting just enough out of the way so I can lay it down right here. There we go. So I can see roughly what that did. So that should be just a simple oval right about here. If I've done this anywhere near right, that should be pretty close to the back instead of on the butt. I think this will be butt and this will be butt. There we go. Let's see what here. Let's see. You can see. Okay, I wasn't sure how that came through. I use that thing sometimes, or mini scissors. That nipper, that little triangle shaped thing. I actually need to get one of those. Just one of those tiny little ones, so I can work with. But again, with the whole I try not to spend money thing, so I use as cheap a products as I can. Most of what I use is the stuff that I've had since forever. Efficiency and what's the word for it whenever you not the negative word, not penny pinching, but there's another word for it. I just can't picture it right now. It kind of looks like a rubber duck at this exact moment, which is funny to me because that's what my last Monday project turned out looking like, was a kind of like a rubber duck. And I haven't finished that one yet either, but like I said, I try to do as much as I can when I'm on live, but I'm also trying to make sure that I keep up with orders, and sometimes that just means that I can't finish my live projects until like last minute. And then we've got Father's Day coming up, which in this case means that I will be going to a water park. Ooh, there we go. I have to solve a puzzle when I've been on for long enough. That way it knows that I'm not faking being a person. All right, now let's fold this again. Get that right about there. Then I'm going to... Where's Rex? Mommy's looking for Rex in Mommy's room. All right, so there we go. Now, here's the thing. I don't feel like that's quite enough booty. I mean, just looking at it right now, it does not look like it's going to curve up quite enough. So I need to bring more here. But that is an okay change to make now rather than cutting everything out. I just use a Stitch Kits scissors from the hospital. I got that's funny. Yeah, honestly, that's why I use the stuff that I have, because it works. I know there's going to be easier things out there, and maybe if I can get somebody to like fund me, or what's the word I'm looking, sponsor me, I can get some really cool stuff. But even when I get cool stuff, I'm probably still going to use the same stuff I've always been using. Okay, now I need to make this a little bit bigger. If I do it this way, I can use this for the next piece. All right, so I want this to go bigger, which means this has to go higher. I think what I'm going to do is bring it out a little bit more. And then bring to here. Then with this, I should be able to do pretty close to the same little circle here. It's just going to have to go a little bit higher. And then, of course, I can always adjust the circle a little bit. I don't care if it's not a circle. If it's an oval in the end, that'll be fine. But I want it to be, I guess I want it to be rounded. I think that's what I feel like is important for that. I don't want it to look like a shell. I think in the end, when we do it up in the red with the white spots, it'll be a mushroom for sure. But I think that rounded will make it look better. All right, let's try this. I'm actually going to trash that last one. I've actually started saving paper because what I think I'm going to do is I am going to shred the paper, soak the paper, and make my own paper from paper. And then you can trim it down. Let's see, maybe make a bigger, like a circle, but rounded. Yeah, I kind of think so. I think that if this is the wrong shape in the end, that's going to be easier to adjust once I know the points of it. I think the shape of the butt will make more of a difference than the shape of the circle will. And on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, I can do different types. Like, for example, I can make like the mystic red and white mushroom, or I can do like a bunch of shiitake mushrooms, or I can do a lion's mane. Like, I can do a lot of different other types of mushrooms in that space, and I can adjust the shape according to what I'm doing for that. And that's just if we decide to stick with the mushroom route. Because first off, I love mushrooms. I've made mushroom fairies. I'm not super happy with the mushroom fairies because they felt kind of basic. So I was going to do like make armor for them and put them in different types of outfits. I just never did. But this might be my way of fixing that balance. I've got fairy mushrooms that I made, which are cute and tiny and have little legs. And I made them look like the Mario mushroom and a inky cap mushroom. So I really like making mushroom stuff. So I'm definitely not opposed to the idea of changing this to that. Need help with making your own paper? Do so that I can help. Oh, if you know how, that's great. I will probably ask you because I think I know how. I think it's real simple. I don't even think there's any binders in it, but there could be. But it has to drain over a screen and dries up as a solid after it's turned into pulp. And I think it'll be a lot of fun to make like make some ACEOs out of that. I gotta do my fold here. Where's my other half? There it is. Sometimes you can see with the light where the two lines are to kind of line them up. All right, now let's try and get this wedge in here. So I have a question. I see, it looks like there's like 16 people in here, but there's also like 2 other numbers, and I can't tell what those are. And I don't know if that means that there's only like 15 people in here. I don't know if there's a whole bunch of people in here. But if you guys have any thoughts or opinions on what I need to do to kind of get more views, get more people watching, if I'm boring or if it's just the subject matter, because I always assume that the subject matter of sewing is going to be something that's kind of niche, depends on what people feel like. Oh man, I'm not sure if that curved out enough, did it? Let's see what we've got here. If we compare the 2 of these, it's kind of hard to tell. I think what I'm going to have to do is just put it together. It looks like it's wider, but I don't know if it goes up high enough. Oh, either way, what I was saying is that if there's things I need to do, let me know. I'm more than happy to kind of do better. But you are doing great. Well, thank you so much, big fan. I really appreciate that. But do keep in mind, if you guys have suggestions for me, I am always ready to learn, always ready to do a little bit better each time. Okay, now, this is the bummer of things. I definitely have to cut out more fabric each time I do a new pattern. But that's just the way it is, because unfortunately, it's not like I can reuse a failed one anyways. So, I do my very best. Let's see, I can do this up a little bit higher. As you can see, it's not like it really matters a whole lot what material you use, as long as it's something that you feel like is easy enough to access and work with. I don't even cut these out straight. This is just one side. The other side of this material is all kinds of the same randomness to it. So basically what winds up happening is I just get less and less space, and I try to use as much of it as I can, and it just kind of keeps dwindling down. I am glad that I'm using this white pencil right here. People have given me a hard time for using the pen in the past, and I will definitely be using it on the Minky. But right here, it is definitely saving me some time. I'm not having to hunt down those lines. It does kind of go through the pencil very quickly, though. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that. The texture of the material just kind of wears out the lead or whatever the word is. I know lead's not right, but the color, I guess, would be what I'm referring to. And then point here, that should be fine there. I put dry flowers in my paper for my poems and use a typewriter. So that's really neat. I'd like to see some of those. You can take the drawing you made and put on the screen. Oh, how do I do that? Let's see. Or when someone joins the stream, you can take the drawing you made and put it on the screen. How do I do that? Is there a button for that? Let's see. Draw and guess. Oh, there's a whole bunch of other things that are popping up. I'm going to have to look into that. Put it under the you know what? That's a good idea. I wonder how I would do something like that. I will look that up. Thank you, big fan. I've never tried. I've never even thought of looking to see how to do things like that. So that's going to be a helpful thing. I will look into that very soon. In fact, if I can remember, I'll just go ahead and look that up after I get off on this time. It's probably like really easy. I know that there's all these other challenges that TikTok does, and I've looked through some of them, but I don't really know enough about them. I've gotten some achievements in them, but then they want you to do posts, and I've tried to do the post thing where it's literally what they tell me, and they say, oh, that doesn't qualify. Like, wait, that's literally what you said you wanted done in it. So I haven't tried too hard, and I know that part of that is because I'm already doing so many other things, and part of it, to tell the truth, is I don't want to look like I'm just here for money. I am in a part here for money, but at the same time, I don't want it to look like, oh, he's just some dude that wants everyone to buy his stuff. Like, yes and no. I mean, to be fair, artists got to live off what they're doing. But at the same time, I don't want it to look like I'm that kind of guy. I saw people do it for streams, while, like taking picture on the phone and put it on the stream. I'll have to try that. I may have to start doing my streams from a computer, but that also means getting a new computer because mine is old as heck. It's so old that it actually has Photoshop on disk before they went subscription only. And again, use what I've got. So I use that Photoshop for everything, even though it doesn't have quite as many tools. Yes, I know what you mean. By putting up a picture of the drawing, yeah. That way people can see this is what I'm working on. I can reference the picture, or I can put like text on it probably that says, this is today's project. And then maybe it'll disappear after a little while. I'm sure there's a real easy process for that I just don't know. But the truth is, since I didn't even know that was a possibility, thank you so much. This is exactly what I'm talking about. When I ask people for help and they tell me stuff that I don't even know, and they're like, oh, I don't know if this is helpful. No, it's helpful. I promise. So thank you so very much, big fan. And I just realized I got to cut out that long strip again. Actually, I wonder if I could reuse that long strip. I don't know if it'd be easier to cut it out. It'll be easier to cut it out. I was going to say, would it be easier to cut it out, or would it be easier to take it off the other sewing? And I definitely think tracing and cutting is way easier than trying to find all my seams. I've already proven how useful that can be by cutting that circle into his back. So I don't need to prove anything else with that. If I am lucky, I might have enough material here to do that with. I don't think so, though. It looks like it's going to be too small no matter what I try and do with it. So one of the things I've been thinking about lately, though, is trying to do a regular show on Fridays. Now, one of the things that I've been doing lately is really thinking about how I've got a few different posts where I say, hey, what would you do next? Or what would you like to see? But I haven't had the time to actually do anything like that. I'm kind of thinking about doing like a Fan Friday. And on those Fridays, I pick a post that I've done or that people have commented on, or maybe some things that people have requested in chats like this or on my lives, and make some of those. I think it would be a lot of fun. I could do a lot more including people with that kind of thing. But I don't know where it would land. I mean, what'll wind up happening most likely is I'll be doing like the mice or bunnies, and that's a lot of fun. And it'll also be helpful for anybody that buys one of my patterns, because then they could use the video for instructions. I think that something like that could be a lot of fun and be a little bit more inclusive with a lot of different things. So if you think that would be interesting, someone let me know. I'll post about it later as well. As it stands, I still have my appreciation giveaway that I haven't finished yet. But I've got so many little things that I am trying to do for a schedule that I don't know where it's fair to leave off. Like today, I've got 3 Etsy orders that I've started. I've got about a week and a half to do them, maybe just a week. I'm not 100% sure. And then I've got this show that is going to be, I believe, on the 27th. That's here locally. It's like a little craft show. And I want to get back to doing the craft shows because I actually really enjoy doing them. But I also am working on timing. So if I don't have enough product, I can't do the craft shows. And even though I have some, for the most part, I've sold everything that I've made, which is definitely great. It just kind of causes a problem for stocking. Okay, so looks like we've got these 2 pieces all set up. Let me get this stuff out of my way. I should be able to pin this in place again. See, there's my point. There's my top. Oh, that could have been bad. I almost completely forgot to cut out my wedges. That would have got me confused. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I do know that if I don't do that, then it kind of throws off other things. So let's go ahead and sew those wedges together so that I can make sure I keep them on the inside of what I'm working on. Once again, this whole process relies on you doing everything so that the material pattern is on the inside of what you're sewing, so that when you right side it out, it hides your seams. I have this bad habit of forgetting which part is out and which part is in when it comes to this black material, this simple cotton material, because it doesn't have a pattern on it. And all the way to the edge. There we go. Do this one. I also like to leave the previously sewn piece on. And the reason I do that is so that I can use it as a handle for some of the smaller pieces. When I make a small little mouse like this, it's all machine sewn. So I use the handle of the previous part that I sew to feed it through, because otherwise these 3 parts of the head, they get jammed up in there. So I've kind of developed that as a habit whenever I can. Like right here, I'll just basically use this as a handle to pull the thread through. But it's got to be done slowly too. I did not need to backstitch any of that. And yet, out of habit, I still do it. And there we go. What if you made a mouse with 3 heads and 3 tails? Well, in keeping with that concept, I have this little guy. He is a mutant mouse. He's actually got 2 heads sewn together. Let's go ahead and take him out and show you. And I have made one with multiple tails too. like that head sewn onto that head. But I could definitely make a Cerberus type mouse as well, like literally 3 heads. I have made a lot of different types of mouse. Like I made a necromancer mouse, and I sculpted a skull for it. So I've got all kinds of different random things that can be done with these mice. Thank you so much. I'm glad you like it. I thought that might be something you would enjoy after saying that. Okay, and let's see, I got the seam. See, I got to make sure this is the outside seam, so I want to make sure the seam is on the same. I'm going to go ahead and, yes, I'm going to leave the pins in. Making fun of me for it. Testing my luck. Anything you can come up with, I'm sure. Even if I can't make it exactly like you imagine, I can come up with something for it. It is a lot of fun to try and make things that match people's random ideas. But that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that I can do that on Friday. So even though somebody hasn't ordered it, which is usually what I reserve my work for, I don't even do as much of the like personal stuff that I would do because I'm so focused on trying to catch up on orders. Would you just stop losing focus? It's like it gets confused as to where to look. My hand's coming off on and off the screen. And yes, exactly. Like I made an exchanging head Sleepy Hollow mouse. It was something we kind of came up with live. I was trying to come up with an idea for what to make, and then Cat B and I were talking, and we came up with the idea of making a mouse that I can trade heads with. And then I made a jack-o'-lantern as a replacement head. So there's a lot of fun stuff that we can do. I'm also thinking that I'd love to find somebody to co-host with, kind of do a collaboration with for my Mondays, for Not Poke Monday. And maybe if I can find some people, we can do like bundles where we make something together out of the same guy. Like we all make a Joltik or something like that in different ways. I do a plush, maybe they do a sculpture, maybe they do a painting, and then we do a bundle sale so that somebody can get one of those like as together and like everybody can benefit from it. It came with description mouse. Ella went to sleep. Yes. It was a lot of fun to make that idea up too. All right, now let's go ahead and run this through. You can pause it, Vance. Just run this straight through. Try to make this real quick. One of the things I've been doing a lot lately is at night I've been working on digital work, which means digital versions of my Goofy Monday projects. I've also got some other people I'm working with to try and make some other types of projects with. But I also am going to be trying to make a series for like a horror video game videos, kind of like small animations that I do. And I've been writing a story for it. And I think it'll be a fun project. I'll probably have to put on a totally different TikTok and just start from nothing with. But I think things like that, being able to do multiple things, is so much more fun than having to be stuck with one project until you get tired of it. Because if you ever watch, there's a lot of artists that they do certain things so often, especially when it comes to social medias, where they have to kind of maintain a certain appearance or a certain style to maintain the algorithm, that eventually you just kind of get burned out. And I know that feeling for sure. So I'm trying to make sure that I don't by adding some of the other stuff that I love to do and just kind of bouncing back and forth without going too far. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Are you doing okay? Yeah? Are you still wearing your pants? No? Just underwears? That's silly. Yes, it is. You want me to ask the people if they think it's silly? That's okay. I won't ask. I don't know if that's embarrassing to you or not. I don't want you to feel embarrassed. What?
I'm cutting it.
You're trying at least. Oh. Dropped a pin. Make a post and say you want to collab with other people and show your... I definitely will. I will give that a try. Maybe I can even comment on a couple. There's a few people that I follow because they make content that's right within those bounds. There's an ACEO artist who does some amazing fan art from the Niantic company, which again, I'm not saying their name too many times because I don't want to get dinged. But maybe somebody who does like those Pokeballs that are shaped like different Pokemon. I try not to say the words, and it's so funny. I shouldn't have to worry about saying that word. I'm not doing anything with it, but I shouldn't have to worry about saying the word. Oh no. Gotta make sure that that's folded back far enough. I know some of the challenges that TikTok offers is for sharing lives. I'm not sure exactly how they call it. Oops, let's see. My hip just popped. Yep, I'm old. All right, I'm going to roll this all the way back around. We're going to try and get this to line up as much as possible. Somehow, like something just kind of got stretched along the way. So I'm just kind of trying to see if I can get it to fold where I need to. So I can get that to line up. This is where the circle is going to go to. And I'm not even sure what you can see. Hey, Shadow. Shadow's been coming in and visiting us for quite some time as well. I don't know if I'm appreciative enough. I want you guys to know that, first off, anybody who stops by, I really appreciate it. Give me some feedback. Let me know what's going on. Talk to me, and I will talk. Ask me questions. I will do my best to teach you anything I can. But also, there are a lot of people. Shadow, Cat B, Seal, Spaz. There's a lot of people that make it in regularly that I feel like I'm not showing enough appreciation for. And I definitely appreciate it. I love knowing that there's people that are coming in that like watching me. I just don't know exactly how to do my best at showing that. So let's see here. You thought I was 23? Is it because of my not so aged hands? No, I don't know what I look. I know that when I was in college, people thought I was way younger because I'm weird. I know how to talk. And because I did not age horribly. I am Hispanic, so I got a little bit of that in me, so I don't age as fast, but I wound up getting kind of lucky with that kind of stuff. Do my best to pop in whenever I see you for as long as I can, and I appreciate it, Shadow. I really do. All right, let's see what we've got going on here. This should be enough for me to at least do the back of the neck. Oh, we got it. Hey, the booty turned out pretty good. I might curve that a little bit more. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. You can see right here, that's what took. It's funny how exaggerated it gets. You can see the difference. But if I just round this out a little bit more, that should be fine. And I can always sew that separately. So that actually rounded out pretty nicely. Looks like the butt comes up enough, and it looks like our neck has enough shape to it. I may have to make it a little bit taller because I have a feeling that when I put the head on, it's going to shrink down a little. But that helps out a lot. So now, let's see. I think that when I do the sew that on, that should be okay. I think the best way to tell is if I were to actually sew right here at the edge of the circle and then do the same kind of point down the back of the neck that I did on the belly to give it some shape like this. What am I working? Oh, I am actually working on, we're going to call, right now we're calling it a mushroom slug. So we're going to do the top of the head and the back as the mushroom design. And then the rest of this is going to be the slug-ish. Yes, sir?
I want more material.
You want some more material?
Uh-huh.
Let's see if I can find you just a little bit more. Is that enough? Oops.
It's so big.
That's too big? Okay, well, let's try a little bit less. How's that?
It's small.
Is that small enough? Okay, go ahead and take that back with you. All right, so I think
I need one.
that we've got the rounded part here.
I need one.
You need one. Yep. Well, it's probably not going to cut on that. To be honest, your little toy scissors are not going to cut it.
No, this is sculpture.
It is a sculpture. Very nice. All right, so I can go ahead and test the top. I think that that's going to be good. I'm going to have to adjust. You can see right here that the circle actually comes to a point. So I'm going to have to bring that out a little bit more, which won't be horrible. I think what that means is I'm going to be bringing this down some. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and cut that and see what happens. Yep, see, we got it rounded now. Let's see. It's hard to tell because of that inner piece. Trying to get just enough light to be able to show you what I'm talking about. But you can see that's the seam, but it's got a rounded edge now. This is all I had to cut off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, and I'm going to lay it across the back so that I can see what I'm going to cut off. And then I will pencil that in. Wait. I'm not sure I did that right. I think, yeah, I did that wrong. This is what I cut off. So it goes out just a little bit further. Yeah, because there's the seam. And since I sewed up the back, by cutting this off, it let me see exactly what could be removed. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that.
It's free.
What?
I got 4 coins.
You got 3 coins. Oh, yeah. You found a whole bunch of coins then, huh? Where's the red one? Is it in there?
No, in my...
So that should give me the rounded there. And then when I sew this on, even if it's not rounded, when I sew that point at the other side of it, let's see, where's my edge? It'll be close enough that what I can do is when I cut that piece out, I can make it like a slightly tapered oval so that it should round it out by force almost. And then this would be good here. So this is going to do a lot. I'm going to hop off. Oh, I'll see you later, Shadow. Thank you so much for coming by. Hopefully soon I'll be caught up and I'll be able to make your smaller version of your Eevee. Let's see, what did I miss here? Mushroom slug. All right, excellent. One of the things I'm going to have to learn is how to get that picture up on my live. It'll make it so much easier. Okay, now that means that we have the head to put together. I'm going to do a little bit of a wedge here. Now, I should be able to... Let's see. If I do this just right, I should be able to estimate my size based on what I'm doing here. So, I'm going to hold that out. I want it to go rounded a little bit. So, let's see. If that forms a V, I should be able to get it from about here to here. So, that'll be a little bit helpful. My ruler is in another room, so I'm just going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oops. And all I did was, I don't know if that showed up very well. I pinched where my circle on the back is going to end. And then I kind of spread this out as much as I thought I needed to for the wedge, for the top of the head. And then just kind of set it down. Oops. Here, let me try this with my other hand so I can show you what I'm talking about. So it's not going to be exact, but this is roughly what I'm looking at. So I've got this V shape. Now, what I did was I put it down here so I can see roughly how big that V shape is going to be. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the length. All right, so about that long. What I'll do is I'll go between the 2 points to find the center on this side. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. So I need 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That should be about my middle point, right about there. Now, I don't think this is going to be enough room because what I want to do is I want the top to go across the top of the head and then down at this length. So I'm going to have to go ahead and get my small piece out of the way. I'm not going to throw it away because I could still use this to make the ears. Dismiss that. Oh, looks like I knocked my thread out of my sewing machine. Give me 1 second so I don't try and start sewing while that's out. Come on, there you go. All right, now let's get the sewing machine a little bit out of the way. Get my needles out of the way because they are already flying all over the place. What tends to happen is when I'm moving from one piece of this to another, I don't always clean up behind myself. And doing this like live, there's a whole different process. It's kind of funny how different it is because all these different things that I'm explaining and kind of walking through, which is not a problem. It's just all these extra steps. So let's see from here, do this as my center line. I want it to be about this long, so I'm going to do a little bit extra. So that should be the same number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not quite, so I'll do that in one more. Erase that. That should get me centered enough. Now again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just doing the prototype. So now I've got from here, straight line. I'm going to do about an extra 1/4 of an inch. And all I'm going to do is cut it out together. All right, now I have the front of the head. So that needs to go forward that much. So to about here. Oops, you can't see anything that I'm working on here. There we go. All right, so I want it to go up the back. That's roughly what we've got for that wedge. It's probably going to be too much, and I'll have to cut that down a little bit. This is how wide I'm going to want the head to be. And then I'm going to have the distance from the back of the head to the front of the head. This is where the top of the forehead is going to wind up being. So now I'm going to go ahead and draw a line roughly to that. This one I want to be a little bit shorter. It'll be okay to be shorter in this circumstance than too long. Because normally I could cut it down, but I think that with the space that I'm using, I have to keep that in mind. Now, I want it to come up the neck, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of shape on the neck. I'm going to see if it comes down. I want it to go rounded a little bit. And then we'll do that. Because if I do straight lines, that works in certain circumstances, but otherwise it kind of looks unnatural. All right, so, and what I'll do is I'm just going to fold this in half and do the same on both sides. I should have centered it more. I thought I was centered, but we're going to find out how this looks. Now, with the top of the head, I'm going to have the mouth. So I'm going to do the mouth about the same length on the top. No, I'll do it a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer than the bottom one so that it curves down a little bit more. So to here. So that's going to be my mouth. Once again, I have the lip, so I got to bring that in because that's going to be the part I fold under when I sew it to give it a lip. Now, I want from here, it looks like I've got it curving in so that the face, the side of the face, kind of brings up a little bit. So I will do just a little bit of a curve. Now what will happen if I've got this right is this will go to the mouth, to the back of the head, and then right about here is where I'm going to do the ear. So we're going to do curved, and then bring that out right here. I'll do a little bit of a long ear. It's probably not. It's okay. It's okay. The microphone is just right next to it. And then we'll adjust the ears accordingly once we kind of get that done. But this way I can see roughly what it's going to look like. And then round. Let's see. I think I kind of want a little bit more of a wedge in the ear. So I'm going to bring that out a little bit more. But that looks like... See, I definitely want the ear to be towards the back. So maybe what I need to do is plan for it to go down a little bit. So we'll do it right here where I've originally drawn it. And instead go this way a little bit. Bring it in. Where's my eraser? Did you see where I put? There it is. I think that should give me a pretty decent shape for that ear. I don't want it to be too wide. I kind of want this almost like an antenna shape to it. I think that's the best way to kind of describe what I'm looking for. This is going to get pretty small, so I'm going to have to make this a little bit bigger. And the reason is because when you sew it together, you lose a lot. Like you lose about 1/4 of an inch. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You lose about 1/4 of an inch when you sew. So this is how big I can expect it to be once it's all put together. And then I think that if I bring this in and then bring it this way. So it's not going to be quite as rounded. And it'll come out just a little bit. There we go, around that here. That should give it like a nice and even kind of protrusion. So this is roughly half of my head. Why does that seem weird? This seems so long. Oh, I wonder if that's what I did here. So I think I put the center of this. Yeah, I did that right here on the wrong part of that. So if this is my center line, this is what I want the head to be. So I'm going to make this a little bit longer. I did a lot of work that I did not need to do there. Oops. Let's go ahead and change some of this. Glad I noticed that. I definitely still want this to be a little bit bigger than the bottom. So I'm going to put it to about here. This will be the mouth. I'll bring this in. So that will be the lip. And then curve this way. All these extra steps. And what's going to wind up happening is I'm probably going to swing and miss so much on this. And I'm not even sure how I'm going to do the underside of the ear. I'm probably just going to do like a triangle piece that I sew along it and then tuck in. Because I think it'll look okay if it's tucked in there. But this gives us a nice sluggy shape. Let's see, where do I have my lines to? Gives me a little bit extra for the mouth. And that should round out pretty nicely. Oh, did you finish the body? Not quite. See, that's what we're working on here. It's going to be the head, and then the head is going to be the top right here and go down the body. So it'll be, here, let me show you roughly what I'm talking about. So we've done the body so far. I've done across this part right here. So it's this. Now what I'm doing now is trying to do the head, the top of the head as one piece with the ears. Now this flap is meant to go actually downward. So I'm doing arched around the back and down the back of the neck. This should bring the head out just a little bit wider because I've made the top of the mouth a little bit wider. And if I've got anywhere near the right shape, then that'll be very helpful, honestly. All right, let's see here. Double checking to make sure I didn't miss anything. I do think that down the back of the neck is a little bit long. So I think I'm going to bring this in just a little bit. Let's see if I do this about here. And then I can still keep the ears just as long as they are. That'll be fine. A little bit more curve. And then I will bring this curve. Here, let me go ahead and bring the ears on this side a little bit further in. Because I think what's going to happen is I want from about here, following this curve. So it looks like it's going to go more to about here. So I'm going to bring this out, and then I will say this. Rid of some of this stuff so I don't confuse myself. Take the ear and I'll bring it down. There's a whole lot of lines here because I wasn't really concerned about being precise about a whole bunch of this different stuff. Just as long as I knew what I was working with. All right, so this should be pretty close. You can probably see I do use a lot of paper, so I don't like to waste it. But I also think that here it's not, I didn't center it enough. Yeah, nowhere near enough. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to half and half this. I'm just going to cut down the center. And then once I do one side, I will just flip it over and do the other side. So this out of my way. All right, now I think I kind of want to thin the ear out just a little bit, but I may have to do that when I sew, because if I cut it too small, it just won't be enough to right side it out, which is obviously very important to be able to do. Okay, now to do a quick test, I'm going to go ahead and follow this right down the back. Yep, you can see that it is still just a little bit too long. So I think what I could do, instead of making the whole thing different, I'm going to cut just a little bit shorter. Once again, I'll follow from here. I'm not concerned if it goes a little bit in, but that's just for the time being. And then follow along. See, that should be a lot closer. Now I'll go ahead and cut this to make sure that I don't lose that, because that's going to be part that gets sewn together. Now, let's see what happens. Get some of my stuff back out of the way. Make sure I don't throw away anything important. And I'm just going to do this and then flip it back over so I can get both halves. But I do have to make sure that I've put it on a piece that is big enough for that to happen. So from here, yep, that should be plenty for me to double it up. Now, whenever I do something like this, whenever I know that I'm going to have to flip it, what I like to do is I like to draw the center line where they go so I can line them up together. It's usually a little bit more helpful. And I do prefer to just trace the full thing at once. I'm only doing it this way because I drew it out and realized it was too short of a piece of paper to fold in half. But normally I would just have both halves as one part of the pattern. I have been known to do it this way depending on how big it gets. But it is one of those things that's kind of a preference and a circumstance kind of situation. So now I've got that side. I can line it up where those two lines are. And continue. What's funny is I also know that because of the way that the fabric works, this could be so far off that it doesn't even kind of work. I've got a little bit of experience for the plushes, but I also know full well that there is almost no way for me to tell. You're listening to music?
I'm singing.
You're singing?
Come look.
I can't, baby. I'm still working.
I show you.
I will come look in a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew this on and I'm going to see what happens. And this will probably be the last part that I do for the day, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your patience. Okay. I hope so. I mean, I'm looking at the shape of it. There may be some tweaks that need to be done so that basically it comes closer to the sketch. But at the very least, I think this is going to be close enough for us to be able to say, oh, okay, I see what will or won't work. Like, for example, the way I've got it curved right here, that might need a little bit more curve. It might need a little bit less. You saw how much of a difference the curve makes on the butt when I did that a little bit ago. Every little bit makes such a massive change depending on how it's sewn together. And then there's also the fact that I might wind up having to go through and cut snippets and wedges into the fabric so that it takes the curves better, which is something else that I keep thinking about getting is those triangle scissors. the ones that cut the rigid triangles, because that's something that helps the fabric take its shape a little bit better as well. But again, that's spending money, and I've already discussed my opinion on spending money. One of the things that happens with that is I actually do have a lot of orders from people, and that's fantastic. I love it. But I also price it right at the edge of what I can do. And it's profitable, it's helpful, but it's not so profitable that I have all this extra margins. It's not like I'm a big business that's got a whole bunch of people doing a thing and that I don't have to pay overheads and stuff. So I'm trying to learn how to balance that out, but it is another really hard thing to do. As an artist trying to be a business, there's that line between being greedy and being righteous and being good about it. And I just don't know those numbers right now. All right, so the way I've got this set up, this is going to be the lip. And what will happen is when I get all of it sewn together, I will actually fold it in like that and do a seam all across it. And if I can do it just right, I will actually tuck in the round piece that we're going to do for the mouth as well. So I just need to line this up with the mouth. Give myself that little bit of extra space where it's supposed to fold. Nope. There we go. I was thinking I had to actually give space for that, and I just realized I do not. But you can see how close I came to getting that the same length. So that's a good thing. I do need to figure out, what am I looking? Something seems wrong about what I'm looking at here. If I want this to come down the back, I think what's happening is I need to make this shorter. But I'm not really too sure. There's a lot of little things that are kind of coming together a little bit awkward. So what I'm looking at here is I have got, this is going to have to be rounded. That's one thing. Because this is the mouth. And then to get it to go around, I can try and help any finance classroom. Oh, that's fantastic. That would be helpful. Just knowing how to do pricing for stuff and how to adjust accordingly while still being fair will be a big deal. And I know that there's a lot of tutorials out there that talk about that. I am actually making what we are calling a mushroom slug. We're going to do the back and the top of the head as a red and white spotted mushroom. And we've got the body almost figured out. Now I'm just trying to figure out how to do the top of the head with all the little designs that I've got planned. But I think I've just realized a problem with the shape of it. So I already knew that the ears were going to come down a little bit. I think that part of this is going to have to be that I have to cut that a little bit. So we're going to do a rounded top on it. We go ahead and actually cut that on both of these. So they're about the same. And then I will cut the top of this as well. So that I know. So now I want the ears to be slightly on the top, but I think I've got, maybe the ears are too big right now. I think that might be part of the problem. So if it curves around and it follows the ear, it does curve around pretty well. Well, you can come show me later. Unfortunately, right now I am a little bit busy, and I'm going to be honest with you, buddy. One of the biggest problems is that when I'm trying to do something where I have to figure things out, it's really hard for me to focus.
You're not one.
What?
You're not.
I'm not figuring something out?
Uh-uh.
Yes, I am, silly. That's what I'm doing right now.
Cool.
You think I can do both? I try my best, but sometimes there's a little bit more focus that needs to be done when I am working on something, because I'm doing a lot of this in my head, buddy. And I promise I'm doing everything I can to be patient, but that's also the times that I kind of get overwhelmed. You don't think so? Well, I'm trying. All right, so it looks like if I pin that across, bless you. I think the first thing I need to do, okay, so the wedge goes all the way down. So I've got about 1/2 inch too much. I'm okay with the ears going down the back of it. Man, this is kind of hard to see. I know that it's got to be hard for you guys to see. Why don't we sew the antenna and just make the strips? It makes it easier. Well, here's the thing. If I did the antenna as a separate piece, there's going to be a complete seam difference. And it won't lay flat. What this is going to try and do is it's going to try and lay flat. So if I can get that to do that, I think it'll look a lot smoother across the top. If I have another piece there, there's going to be a new ridge and it's going to take like a sharper angle in comparison. So what I'm trying to do is make it look as flat as I can. And yes, if I sew it and I have a seam right there, instead, there is a possibility of adjusting it accordingly. But I think that if I can get this to look just like it's one piece, and then when it's flipped around so that the ears look like this, I think it'll actually make it look a lot smoother, a lot cuter. It's all about what the fabric is going to let me do in places. And that's why. And I think that having that piece come down the back and also having like the part of that red to it going down its back will also help it look cute. Again, there's a lot of these little things that are more about trying to keep it close to the sketch while knowing what the fabric will or won't do with me. And what I can do is when I sew the inside of the ear, I can do that as a separate piece, maybe even wedges and then just tuck it in so that it has that seam. Or I can even like leave it open so I can stuff inside. But I think what I'm going to do is, let's see, first off, I know that I need to get rid of some of the material. So let's say that it stays mostly the same at the top. Come on, slide for me just a little bit. Keep that at about the ear finished right about there. Sewing this. Follow the curve. Got to do it just a little bit at a time so I can see where it's going to go. That's where it's going to end. So let's start off with a little line right here showing where that's going to end. I think that with that being the end of it, no, actually what I'm going to want to do is end that just a little bit higher. So I'm going to want this to come up here so there's a little bit of space between the back of the head and the circle we're going to do the next line. So let's move that up just a little bit more. Now, if anybody's ever deciding they want to make their own plushes, these are the types of little steps that it's going to take. You're going to have to make it over and over again. You're going to have to find out where you want everything to go. You're going to see that sometimes things just don't take the shape you want them to. And I'm realizing as I put this together that I have these other thoughts too. So let me show you what my new thought is. First off, that's where it's got to end. So let's go ahead and cut right here. So I got a little bit extra, okay? I actually want this to be rounded out. So when it goes down the back, I want a little rounded V to kind of give it a more of an even shape, a kind of a cute transition, instead of being just a sharp corner. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut just a little bit at a time. I'm probably going to need it to be a little bit more small because as of right now, that's going to be the shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that in. Let's go ahead and, okay, so the ear comes in. And then round it out just a little bit more. If it comes up a little bit, that's okay because I can adjust accordingly. So when it goes down the back, I think that would be okay, but maybe just a little bit of a sharper curve on its back would be helpful. So when it comes down from the neck, let's go ahead and I'm going to cut the inside the ear just a little bit more. And then I'm going to sharpen that. Yes, so that gives us a little bit more of a V right down the back of the neck. Now, let's see how that's going to sit. So we follow that around. See how far it's going to go. Sorry, I realize that as I'm moving, I am kind of like shifting on and off the camera. It's hard because like I'm trying not to look over the camera. And I wish that I could set this so I can hear alerts. So if somebody messages me and it tells me when somebody is like, hey, you're off camera. You look silly right now. All right, you can see that because of those adjustments, it actually moved it up a little bit. I want it to go to about here. Here's where the back circle is going to be, where we have the secondary mushroom texture. So I'm going to bring it to about here. So let's go ahead and mark that a little bit higher. Oh, that's way higher. Oh, man. I need to the center. Let's see, where's my center line? This is going to be right about here. It's close to visible. Okay. I don't know if you guys can tell what all I'm doing. Basically, what I'm trying to adjust is so that down the back of the spine, instead of it being, let's say, ear, and then side of the head, I don't want it to be a triangle that comes down. What I want is a little bit of a rounded shape coming down off the back. So it rounds out. Then here's the ears. So here we go. There's that. Okay. So that it turns into this kind of another cap almost on the top. And then when it comes down to here, I have to vaguely draw the shape of it. We'll have the second cap right there. Now, I don't need this gap to be huge, but I want there to be a difference between the two spots so that this is the body, and then this will be the mushroom cap. So putting it together now, I am kind of just cutting the piece that I have and trying to keep that distance. And basically, I've made a lot of this really big in comparison to what it's going to be. So now I have to adjust so that not only do I have this at the center, let me go ahead and mark this, but I also bring this wedge way in to meet it. Now that also means I'm going to have to adjust my ears. My ears are huge. I think what wound up happening is I made this piece about 2 times too big already. So let's go ahead and I'm going to cut down quite a bit. As I'm moving, I'm just kind of adjusting where the fabric lines up. And then it looks like it's going to go to about here instead. So now, that's my center line. I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half. Right about there. So I can see my 2 lines. I'm going to cut my wedge like this. Let's see what that, I'm going to adjust the ears afterwards. I don't know exactly what the ears are going to do. Oops, I got extra pieces caught up here. Don't know exactly what the ears are going to do, but by kind of adjusting how it's setting before I even worry about sewing it together, I can see where a lot of this is going to line up. So that should give me a slightly rounded spot here. Now, if I'm doing rounded, I may have to cut a little loop here as well. So basically, I'm going to change the shape here, add just a tiny little bit of a round spot so that basically this tucks in. And let's see, I'm going to try and see what happens now. Get this all the way across. There's a whole lot of steps that are going to wind up coming into this. And I already can tell that this is not going to quite work. But it's kind of heading me in the right direction, at least. At least I think it is. I mean, I feel like it's probably heading me in the right direction. Okay, I'm going to round that out just a little bit more so that it fits to about here. So it looks like I have to cut here. And so it's kind of funny. As I'm kind of doing this, I can feel myself running out of food. Like I'm going to have to get a snack after this. But I'm so determined to get to a certain point. We're close to the center line here. I think what I'm going to do, bring this in just a little bit more. Man, there is so much that I'm having to cut off, and that's fine. It's really not a problem to cut off all this extra, but the problem comes in that I can't tell what shape it's trying to take compared to what shape I want it to take. Okay, so if I bring this to about here, like I said, I'm just trying to get it to follow along with all these little cuts, at least enough for me to adjust the pattern. And I think that that's pretty close. Now I'm going to have to just cut this off. Well, I guess I'm just going to have to mark it. Come on, you can do it. You've been working so far. Okay. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull all the pieces out. I think I've kind of got enough of it drawn up that I can adjust my pattern, cut this a little bit more evenly. Because as you can see, it's not, this is the back, this is the mouth. It's not particularly evenly cut. And then what I'm going to wind up doing is, now that I've made it so much smaller, no, not quite, but I'm getting really close to done, buddy. See, that's how much of a difference I've already made just adjusting to get it to fit where I want it to fit. So, let's see, what can I figure out? You know what? Let's go ahead and start on this side. This is the beginning side. Line this up. You could even see where, like, I didn't cut it quite right anyways. So now I got to about here. I need this to come in and curve just a little bit. The front of the head should be about fine. I can make the ears a bit smaller as well, so I will make them come out to here. And I think what I'm going to wind up doing is actually cutting this completely out of another piece of paper. Now, if I'm right, this will make a nice little wedge that goes down the back of the head. It'll kind of crest over. And I think these ears are too long. I'm looking at the sketch that I've got, my original sketch. And I think that I want to make this just a little bit shorter. I can always make them longer in the future, but I think just a little bit shorter will serve me well here. All right, now I should be able to just use this same piece, just a few adjustments to it. I will have to guesstimate here because of that. It'll just save me a little bit of material. I know it's probably just as easy to cut it completely out of a brand new piece, but do my very best to be conscientious of finances. Can't be a bad thing, right? And if I can get it to work, I've already started on it, so why not, right? Fold this in half. Yeah, it's not going to fold in half quite right. And that's because when I traced it, I just didn't fully trace it properly. Like some of the material moved on me at different points. All I have to do for the prototype is get close enough to feel like it's doing something. And the good news is that for this prototype, I can actually go ahead and sew it all closed. I don't have to leave an opening in the back of it because I can just use the mouth for the opening. That's going to be a totally different piece that'll be easy enough to tell. So basically, I can kind of save a little bit of time and just real quick stitch it all together without having to think too much. I kind of feel like this might be a little bit too wide, and I will be able to tell whenever I put it together. But let's give that a quick run. Get some of this material out of my way. I have a small trash bag next to me, but for the most part, I just wind up stacking material all over the place and fuzz and all kinds of things just wind up going everywhere. Okay, got that all cut out, ready. Let's pin this and sew it together and see where it lands. There's a whole lot of things that I think are going to be completely off. But with the way that I'm putting this together, my hope is that it's off in the way that I can track and make adjustments to. Where did I just throw? Oh, man, I just threw my pattern, this pattern on the floor like it was trash. I need to not do that. All right, now, there's a lot of curve in this head as well, so I have to use a lot of pins to kind of get it in there. This would be another circumstance that I would say basting would be a good idea. And it may be something I do when I do the final version of it. I think my light's kind of a little bit too bright there. And I think I've got my center marked as well. So I should be able to put this together in a way that lets me see roughly where it's going to go to. I do think it's a little bit low still. But I can also add a little bit more neck whenever I do the final version of this, instead of having to worry about making that smaller. And I also have learned that if I take a pattern to someplace like Staples, they can oftentimes just scan it and then sew it, or I can print it out at 2 to 4 times the size. Okay. Not deep, not enough thread in there. All right, everybody. This is going to be the second to last stitch, and we're going to see how this works for the night. I am going to backstitch a little bit, but that's just because I couldn't quite get to the edge. I'm also going to stop sewing right here. Yes, I'm going to stop sewing right there. Leave the ear open because I don't know how I'm going to do that in the future. And then bring it all the way back over here. Start sewing down the back. And get some of these pins out of the way at least. Now, the way the pins are in there, it's trying to force a curve where there isn't really one. And I did that on purpose, but it does seem like it's starting to cause a little bit of problems. This curve is so sharp that it's kind of really hard to tell. And that's another reason why I like to use basting in these circumstances. I've got basically 2 opposing curves that I'm trying to stitch together. All right, let's see where this lands. I still got to do the other side, but it's just got to be slightly centered. Okay, yeah, it didn't quite make it to the center of that curve, but should be close enough where I can see what's going to happen. Now I just got to line this side up and do roughly the same thing going the other direction. Again, I have to make sure that I kept my mouth in the right place. So I've got that mouth here. Let me back up just a little bit. So this should, in the end, all I have to do is put a rounded piece inside, and that should be enough for my mouth. I'm going to learn if I have to make it bigger or not. I'm going to follow all the way to the edge of the ear, just like I did before. Like that. I'm going to keep that shape as best I can. And start at the other edge of the ear. Again, I've got basically two curves working in opposition of each other, which is not uncommon for when you're trying to sew something like this, because you're sewing it inside out. But when you're trying to figure it out, it kind of makes it a little bit more difficult to know what is or isn't working. Once you know what does work, you can be like, oh, okay, I don't care, and just kind of run through it. Put one more pin, and then we're going to try and see if I can't get that curve to work with me. All right, now let's go ahead and sew up this time. Again, still not back stitching because I'm trying to make it so I can take it apart if I need to. Stop there. Sew across. And now I should be able to right side this out, and we should be able to get a general shape or general idea of what kind of shape it's taking. And yes, there's a lot of this that I could have done, made it a lot easier on myself by making the ears their own separate piece. But because I really want it to take a very specific shape, it just felt like it was going to be more likely to do what I wanted by keeping the ears and the top of the head as one solid piece. It's one of those things that I have just kind of seen a few times when I've done different things that made me think that that would happen. But of course, since I haven't done this, it's all kind of guesswork. And again, the mouth would just be right here. See if I can get something to show what we're doing here. Okay, so there's that. I've got just a little bit of neck space left where this next hole will go. That's where the back end is going to wind up being. Which seems weird, but yeah, I think we already discussed that that would work. All right, now flip this, get my head back all the way up. I'm going to pull the ears out too. I mean, I've only got the top of the ears. The bottom, the inside of the ears is going to be a totally different part. So I won't be able to tell what the ear's shape is going to do in the end. But we've got a whole lot of different pieces here that are hopefully going to lead us in the right direction. So let's get my fluff back in here. I don't know if you can imagine or not, but this is why it's so hard to do a new project. Let me go ahead and back up just a little bit. Doing any kind of new plush projects is literally this. Over and over and over again until I get all the body parts to kind of line up the way I want. I have to restuff it. And not only that, but this material moves differently than the minky material. So it's not much of a difference, but sometimes it makes enough of a difference where I have to make adjustments when I move from the cotton over to the minky. Come on. So now, it's kind of funny. It looks a little bit like a gremlin because of the way the ears are getting all floppy. Stuff that back in here. Looks like the head is tilted back a little bit more than I want. We've already fixed this part a little bit, I think. We definitely fixed that, so I may have to fix here. The over stuff as best I can. Since it's not completely closed up, there's a whole lot of things that are still going to change when I add more to it. Like, for example, when I put that circle here, or heck, when I sew this closed, the circle is going to change the shape of it a lot as well. I'll go ahead and try and get as much stuffing as I can into this neck. It's not going to want to stay because it's got too much space that I can leave through. But it should give us just enough. Looks like there's a few things I'm definitely going to have to work on. So I like how this works. You can see the circle where the mouth would be, and it actually seems like it's pretty darn close to what we've drawn. I don't think I need to worry too much about it. I might bring the head in, make it a little bit more of a curve. And then the shape of the head seems to be doing pretty close to what we wanted as well. I might need to make the neck a little bit longer in the back so that it tilts the head up forward a little bit more. If I tuck the ear in right here, there we go. So that will make the ear take the shape that I kind of want. And I'll just have to figure out how I'm going to do the inside of the ear. Maybe I'll just do a solid piece that is sewn into this, and then I'll have to tuck the head in a little bit. You can see how there's a little extra head right here. See that corner? So I'm going to have to cut that so that it curves around a little bit more. But you can see that that's working out pretty decently. The ear, I think the length of the ear that I've got here is pretty decent, but I'm going to want to move it forward a little bit so that it actually comes to about here on the head. But I think that we've made quite a pretty big chunk of progress. It's very duck-like right now, but that's not too far off from this design. I mean, we've got the back that's still open, a little bit of adjustment to get a little bit more curve and rounded here in the chest, a little bit longer in the back of the neck to kind of bring it forward a little bit, and maybe higher as well. I'll have to adjust how I do this part. Maybe I'll just stop it flat, and then I'll do like a strip of the body material here, so then it'll be flat instead of rounded. But I'm not sure if that's going to work, what's going to be best for that. But I may have to just make another strip right here, because if I try to sew it closed like this, that's going to change a lot of shape. And I don't like how it pinches on the neck. I don't like how it draws the head back. So yeah, there's a lot of little things that I can adjust there. So I will round this out. I'll keep it flat, but I will make another piece here that's going to be the body color. And it'll be rounded at the front and the back, so that'll give us a good solid circle back here.
Yes, Mommy. Come here.
And then next will be the legs. And I might actually wind up doing the next prototype version of this so I can put it together and see how it looks before we come back. So we're not doing literally every step live. But, I mean, the head turned out pretty decently. I've got the shape here. Yes, this is a little uneven, so that's a bit of a problem, but that's just from me sewing it. That's not even from the way it's put together, or the way I planned it. You can see that just a little bit, see right there, that would have been fine if I had sewn it in the right place. And then we'll have rounded. I think the sizes for most things are good. So I think this turned out to be pretty decent. And you can see what I mean by the head and the ear being one solid piece. Granted, I needed to move forward a little bit, but this is why I didn't want to put a seam right here and a separate piece for the ear. I really think it's going to make it look a lot cuter that the top and the ears have that one solid piece, and it's trying to force that same shape, almost like a shell, almost like a cap. So that'll make it look even more like a mushroom slug in the end. And I think that worked out pretty well. Honestly speaking, I'm down to 7% on my battery. I think this is a perfect time to call it a night. I will do a little bit more prototype work between now and next Wednesday. But if you are interested in seeing how this guy turns out, come back Wednesday. Help me figure out some details. We've already discussed with a couple people here Big fan, came up with the idea of having the mushroom colors. Kat being big fan helped me decide that we were going to do this a little bit more mushroom themed. And we've got a whole lot of space to go, and I will try and make it so that it's not every step along the way for next time. But I think it turned out pretty decent. We're going to have some legs put on, and this should be pretty fun. Thank you ever so much for coming by. Cat B, Seal, I think Seal was here. I know Shadow's gone. Thank you guys for coming by. Thank you, too, for helping out with everything. Big fan. And anybody else who is ever interested, feel free to message me. Send me some requests, some ideas, whatever it is you'd like. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help you learn. Thank you again, and you guys have a great night before my phone dies.